Tall tales is the topic. What is a tall tale, class? Do you remember the last week I told you what was a tall tale? Do you remember what is the meaning of it?
Sorry. Tall tale is a person cuentos largos.
Okay, thank you. That's in Spanish, Rosa. But how can you explain to me in English?
Different, very difficult to believe. Really exaggerated story.
It tells who is it No.
Okay. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Joshua. You mentioned, Joshua, something important. A tall tale is a story. It's a story. There is a lot of fiction, and there are some exaggerations. So that's what is called tall tales. Tall tales also is called fish tales. So because they are not true. For example, here, copy this in your notebook. Copy the topic. Tall tales. That is a topic class. Now, as you can see here in this, okay, let me share one more time. In this picture, here in this presentation, we have some pictures here. Back at the ranch. Do you think that this is a good examples of a tall tale, this picture number 1?
Yes.
Yes? Just by seeing the picture, we can try to figure out or identify what is this tall tale about. Yes, this is a good example of a tall tale. Look at this girl. What is she riding past? What is this animal? It's a turtle. Do you think that's possible that humans can be in a turtle?
No.
No, right? So it's a tall tale. Humans cannot be riding. We can ride a horse, but we cannot ride a turtles, big turtles. So this is an example of tall tales. What about number 2 of this, that it says gum, chewing rattle? Why do you think that this might be an example of a tall tale?
Yes, our example
because it's unbelievable because this thing cannot happen in real life.
Yes, that's right. It's unbelievable. It cannot happen. Snakes cannot be chewing gum. It's impossible. Humans, yes, we can, but animals, we cannot. So just by seeing this picture, we can identify also that this is a good example of a tall tale. It's unbelievable. There are some exaggerations here. Even though we are not going to read these books, but just by seeing the picture. What about this one, class? Number 3, picture number 3.
Yes, but a humanoid like the cat.
It's
and
a panther.
Yes. Cats.
Yes, it's a panther. So we are not going to be riding a panther. So just by seeing this picture, we identify that it's an exaggeration. It's not true. It's impossible. So it's an example of a tall tale. So Miss Sally cannot be in this animal. So excellent. So remember, what is a tall tale, class? Do not copy right now. Tall tale, this is just, don't forget, you already have this definition in your notebook. It's a fictional story. There is a lot of fiction in a tall tale that stretches the truth. So it means that it's not about the truth. It's something that is not going to happen in real life. You're not going to be writing a turtle. So the heroes or heroes of a tall tales are larger than life. You can see in tall tales, you can read in a tall tale that these people, they are big, so like this. Look at this ball. Look at the houses, the shores, the trees. They are smaller than the boys. So that is impossible. We are shorter than trees, than houses. So that it's an example of tall tales. Sometimes the heroes or shearers, it mentions shearers, but it's the same as saying heroes. In a tall tales are completely made up. So when it says made up, so they are just exist in the imagination of the person that writes that story. Sometimes they are based on an actual person who really lived. Yeah, that person, someday, for example, John Henry. The story that we read last week, John Henry, that boy exists. It was true. But it wasn't true that this boy can use just a hammer or 2 hammers in his hands just to build, to crack a boulder or to build a railroad. It doesn't happen. It's not true. But that boy exists. So it's a person that really lived, but it wasn't true that he was so strong in that way, that just by using a hammer, he can do that. So that is a tall tale, class. In this presentation, you can notice that we have some examples of tall tales that they are some of the titles that you were assigned last week to read. Like this Paul Bunyan, you read about Johnny Appleseed. We have some examples of Johnny Cole. So all these stories that we're going to be talking about next class. Now, also don't forget, you don't have to copy. Right now, anybody is copying. Through telling about these stories, told tales, there are some exaggerations, some characteristics that they are so exaggerated to believe that when you are reading, you can have some fun, you can have some fun, so you can have a good time, but you know that it's not true, that it's not going to happen in real life. They are bigger or stronger than real people and solve problems in a way that is hard to believe. So you know that people cannot be bigger in that way, like the examples before in the previous picture, or so strong like John Henry's story. There are some characteristics of a tall tale. So let's see Santiago Chavez. Help me to read this slide, Santiago Chavez. Santiago, read characteristics of a tall tale, please.
That story has many exaggerations in it. The main character has a problem to solve. The main character is bigger than life and has superhuman abilities. In the end, the main character solves a problem, overcomes an obstacle or defeats a bad guy. The story includes lots of action.
Thank you so much, Santiago Chavez. Yes, as you can notice here, there are the characteristics. Again, there are many exaggerations. Remember, some things that you cannot believe. The characters, all the times, it needs to have a problem to show. Maybe there is like John Henry. In John Henry's story, there was a boulder that it was, remember, a boulder, a big rock that it was in front of the railroad that they were trying to build. And nobody can destroy the boulder. So John Henry has that problem. So he decided to help to solve the problem. And then remember that he was the winner on the machine. Instead of the machine, the machine, it was John Henry. Then it says the main character is bigger than life. It can be bigger and has superhuman abilities. Sometimes you can see that they can fly, that just by eating some food, they get strong. Or you see that they can fight even with some storms, some hurricanes, and they're the winner. So that's not true. And at the end, in the end, it says the main character solves the problem. At the end, you know that this boy, the main character of your story, is going to be the winner, and is going to defeat a bad guy. If it is fighting with a guy, or if it is about some natural disaster or any other problem. And it says the story includes lots of action. All the time you're going to see action. So it's just for having fun. Yes, tall tales, it's just for having fun, to have a good time, to enjoy the reading, but you know that it's not true. It's unbelievable. Now I have other pictures here. We have another pictures.
It's Popeye.
Okay, Popeye, yes, this is what is considered a tall tale, class. Who knows the story of Popeye? What is considered Popeye a tall tale?
Popeye.
Why?
I'm read this story.
You know who is Popeye? Popeye is in Spanish.
Yes, I know see this story.
You don't say this is a story, the movie, the cartoon? No.
I know it.
Okay, Khaled, tell me, you know who is Popeye?
It's espinacas.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fuerte.
Spanish.
Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
He has fuerte.
He's getting strong when he is eating some Spanish. That's right. So do you think that just by eating a food, when you're eating something, you're by drinking milk, you're going to get these muscles in this way of your hands? No, right? That it's impossible just by eating. You're not going to get so strong. Mhm.
No, but it's true.
It's true that boy exists.
No, en otro lado es verdadero, pero en otro lado es falso. Porque solo por comer en un segundo no se puede fuerte, pero sí comiendo fruta, como por decirlo, espinaca,
Mhm. Spanish?
yes.
Yes, that's right, Colette. It's going to take some months, some years for you to get strong by eating healthy food. If you
Not
are
in a
eating some
second, it's
Spanish,
gonna
but
get
not in a
strong.
second.
Like in
Yes,
John
not in a
Henry, that
second.
he grown up in a second, but it took long months. It's
Mhm.
something like that.
Yes. Excellent. So that's why I consider a tall tale. Do you know why it's called Popeye? Before it was called Pop, it was two words. Now we have just one word, Popeye. He was considered here because one of the eyes of this boy, he was like popping. So that's why he was considered Popeye. Now, remember, this boy is a sailor. It's a sailor, and he is so strong just by eating some food like a Spanish. Yes, and that it's unbelievable. It might exist, yes, it might exist, but in these stories, there are some exaggerations. Now, what about this other picture class? I was born about 10,000 years ago. Do you think that is a good example of a tall tale?
Yes.
Why? Yes, it's a good example, but why? Just by reading the title, even though we don't know what is this story about, just by reading the title, we can predict.
Nadie, anything,
Anybody.
Only Jesus
Mhm.
lived 100 years ago.
That's right. Do you think that humans can live more than 10,000 years ago? This boy says, I was born about 10,000 years ago. So it means that this boy, little boy that you see here, it's unbelievable. He cannot have, he is 10,000 years. We cannot live that time.
Exaggeration.
Some exaggeration, that's right. So just by reading the title, we know that it's an exaggeration. Now, we're going to watch a video. Let's watch a video. This is going to be something about Paul Bunyan and about the tall tales. Just let me share here. Please pay attention to this short video.
It's Paul Bunyan.
Some comments about this video.
My
Rebecca, tell
history
me.
is to Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan. Thank you, Marcelo. Rebecca.
In the story tells us some story are exaggerations, some person are so big, and a total are a exaggeration of a story are so big. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. There are some exaggeration in the story. And here I click here, I pause the video because it mentions some of the famous tall tales that you were assigned to read, like Paul Bunyan, Johnny Appleseed, Picklesville, and you already know the story of John Henry. And now it says that it mentions something that it can be true. Yes, like this, Johnny Appleseed, that word, that boy exists, but it wasn't called Johnny Appleseed. It was called, the real name was John Chapman. So as you can notice, it has that story. They can have something that it's true, but most of the cases there are unbelievable stories. Okay, perfect. And also something that it's important, I'm going to show you here, is that what it was mentioning here at the end, that some teams for reading a tall tale. These questions you might ask yourself when you are reading your tall tale that you were assigned. What elements sounds true? What for you sounds true about Paul Bunyan? What about Johnny Appleseed or Picklesville? What elements are too good to be true that you know that it can be impossible? What parts are humor? So these tips, they are just for you to know and to identify some exaggeration, some part of the humor that it can have the story. Now, in your notebook, you're going to copy this tall tale story map. What we're going to do, class? We're going to complete this according to the story that you were assigned. For example, group number 1, remember group number 1, these people, they're going to complete by yourself. This is individual work. You're not going to work in groups. This is individual. you're going to work according to the story that you were assigned. For example, group number one
This
was
is only
assigned
for the
Pecos
first
Bill.
team or for all the teams?
All the teams. Group number one is going to complete according to Pecosville. Group number two about Paul Bunyan. Group number three was Johnny Cole, and group number four was Johnny Appleseed, I think. Yes. So you are going to complete according to the story that you were assigned.
Miss Joy, all that circles and
Yes,
triangles.
all this information. Why? This is important because this is going to help you for you. Tomorrow we
Is
start with the
this.
presentations. Tomorrow we start with the presentation. So if you have this information here, you classify, it's going to be easier for you. When I tell you, for example,
what is that?
Rebecca, can you explain your story? So you can use this information to give me your
This is a
opinion.
worksheet.
Yes, you need to complete it, Santiago Chavez. For example, who is your
I
main
don't
character
have that
in your
word.
story? No, you are going to copy this, Santiago.
Johnny
You're going to
Appleseed.
copy. Who is
Johnny
your main
Appleseed.
character, Santiago Chavez? You were with
Johnny
Khaled,
Appleseed.
right? In the same group. Okay, Johnny Appleseed. So you are going to write your answer here, Santiago Chavez and Khaled. And Johnny Appleseed is your main character of the story. If your main character was Paul Bunyan, you are going to write Paul Bunyan. It was Pecosville, so write Pecosville as answer. Yes? Copy this in your notebook. This has to be in your notebook. What about number two? It says your main character is superhuman strength. So think about, you already read the story, right? So you know the superhuman characteristics of this boy. What about Johnny Appleseed? What can you tell me about the superhuman characteristics that this boy has? It's strong, he's tall, or what?
Tall.
It's tall, your character, Rebecca. Okay, so you write the story, you write the characteristics of him. What is the problem and what is the solution that this character faced? For example, in one story, I think that it was Johnny Cole, that he was fighting with a tornado, with a tornado or hurricane. I'm not sure. Okay, so that is the problem. And what was the solution? What are the things that this boy did in order to stop that hurricane? So you're going to write here. Isabella, tell me, Isabella.
Me.
Of what story? Of what story? We need to do it with the story that you assigned to us.
Yes, with your
Entonces,
story,
esto
Isabella.
es the worksheet.
Miss, but in the story, Johnny Appleseed don't have a problem.
It doesn't have a problem. It should have a problem. All the stories, they have a problem.
No, Miss.
Yes.
Johnny Appleseed don't have it.
Are you sure? Okay, Valerie, tell me, Valerie, what is your question, Valerie?
I don't understand exactly what we have to do.
Okay, thank you. Now, what was your story assigned last week, Valerie? What was your homework to read? Which story?
I don't remember exactly.
You don't remember? You were in group number 4, so you were assigned to
No,
read
Miss.
Johnny
No.
Appleseed.
No.
Yes, it was Caleb, Santiago Chavez, Valerie, Rosa, and Sian,
No.
if I'm not wrong. Okay, so
No.
Valerie, you were assigned to read Johnny Appleseed.
Miss.
So who is your main character in that story, Valerie? So your main character is Johnny Appleseed. What are the superhuman characteristics of that boy? Is it tall? It's taller than a house? Is it a strongest boy? So according to what you read, remember that was your homework last week to read your story. So now, according to what you read, you are going to complete this. If you have, if you didn't do your homework to read, you have today to read it, because tomorrow I'm going to ask 2 groups. So 10 people tomorrow, they're going to.
But tomorrow we don't have reading.
Okay, the next class of reading. If it is not tomorrow, it's going to be the day after tomorrow. So you need to be ready with your story. So you need to read your story. I'm going to be asking you a question about your story. And this information can help you to have an idea what questions can I ask you. I can ask you about your main character, the characteristic of your character, the superhuman characteristics. What is the problem, the solution? 2 exaggerations that you find in your story. Just 2 exaggerations are going to write in this part. Yes, any other question, class? Any other question? Is it clear this part, what you have to do?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Joshua. If it is not clear, raise your hand and tell me, please. Or you can ask if you are shy, you don't want to ask me, you can write it in the chat, the question that you have, and I'm going to answer you.
Miss, es que yo no entiendo,
Mhm,
es que Johnny Chapman no have a problem. And don't
mhm.
have a solution. Only have the story 36 and see, but no have a problem.
It doesn't have a problem.
No. Only lo que yo le miro un poquito más del problema es que no crecieron the seeds with our plant, Johnny Apple.
Okay, so you can write as an problem. Maybe it can be the problem that it's in the story. And what was the
But yo le
solution?
miro como un gran problema, más.
Mhm, but what was the solution there?
Espero varios años,
Okay.
pero no le miro mucha cosa, no le miro mucho problema.
Mhm.
Eso es lo que
Miss,
quería
how can I say combatir in English?
Who was doing that? Who was fighting?
What?
Well, it depends. We can say fighting, but it depends who would. It was one person with another person or what?
No, John
The
told
tornado.
was fighting with a tornado.
Yes.
Okay, combating, you can write that. Let me write it down here. The tornado, it was Johnny Cobb, right? Or John Cobb was that for?
Yes.
Okay, combating, or you can write fighting. Yes, we can say it was fighting with the tornado. It's okay. There are synonyms. If you have any question about your story, also this is the time that you can ask.
Yes. What is the name of the characteristic of my storyteller?
Your story, the characteristics,
What is the name?
the name of your boy. You were assigned John Cole, right?
Yes. Our tutor.
John, it was John Cole. Okay, he was a taller man. Yes, he was taller than a tree. He was taller. This boy was, Johnny Cole was taller. Okay, so you can write it was taller than a tree or than a house. He was taller. He was big.
So big.
Yes, a big boy. You can write also a big boy as a characteristic of some superhuman strength. If it was a strong, you can write he was a strong. So for example, here you can say a big boy. It depends of your story. I'm just writing here. If it is a big boy, if it is a strong, there are some kind of superhuman abilities. A strong. Here you write the name of your character. 2 exaggerations. What exaggerations you find? For example, Paul Bunyan. What was Paul Bunyan? Characteristics.
He's strong.
Is it strong? He was using one tool. Do you know what was the tool?
Big
was
tree.
Okay.
Su
Write it down.
acompañante is Babe.
Okay, babe, that's right. And you can write as exaggeration. What are the exaggeration about babe, Marcelo? What you can mention about babe? What was the color of babe? For example,
It's blue.
babe is blue, that's right. And the animal, this animal is not blue. So that is one of the exaggerations that you can find. In the story. Yes. So excellent, Marcelo. Excellent. So this information is going to help you to have like a summary about your story that you were assigned. So again, if you haven't read your story, this is the time today to read your story, please.
Please, we finished the video.
You're finished? Okay, so remember, what is your homework, class? What is your homework for tomorrow for the next class? A study your total assigned. So you need to read your story because
Finish, I don't finish.
then we're going to share the information that was included. Now, if you finish your dismissed class, you can disconnect. Don't forget to read your assignments to be ready. Yes? Okay, bye-bye. Let's finish here the class. Go and have lunch.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I didn't finish.